I've never really felt I owned this land. Even when we first came here, I thought, nobody owns land. I mean, I might have to pay the taxes and do the sort of care and so on, but really I'm a steward of the land. And I've always felt that. It's on the west coast, west side of Salt Spring, which is kind of the wild side of Salt Spring. It's the undeveloped side of Salt Spring. So in order to get to my property, I have to park my car and then get in a boat. And it's about a 10-minute ride in the boat to get to my dock. So even though I tell people I live water access only, there's always a pause and people are thinking, and then they say, but you've got a road, don't you, Gay? It's just that you prefer to go by boat. And I said, no, we have no road, and there will never be a road. And that blows them away a little. My journey to Salt Spring was rather an interesting one. I was married to a man who lived on a boat, and I lived in Victoria on land. So we thought the perfect compromise was to find a place, a house, on the water. I searched and searched, and I thought, why not Salt Spring? It's an interesting island. The stairs were gone. We had to clamber up the slope. The curtains were pulled, but we just went, oh my goodness, what an amazing place. And I felt in the very beginning, if I get to live here, then one of the things that I am obligated to do is to share it with as many people as possible. So, I've always done that through my yoga, and we've had many big parties here. The oldest daughter was married here, so we had the wedding here. And I always had this pleasure in sharing it with as many people as possible. I have 3 children. 2 from my first marriage and 1 from my second marriage. So it was with husband number 2 that we moved here. And my son was 2.5 when we moved here. And it was actually he that named the property. And he saw all this moss and he said, this is Moss Mountain. So it stuck. We loved it. We loved the name. It came from a 2.5-year-old. For a long time, one of my daughters thought that they would like to move here. Now, this is the daughter with 2 sons. But the reality is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to live water access only, and it's a lot of work to have children and have to take them back and forth. And I wasn't sure, I never felt that it was really a good fit for them, but eventually they figured that out themselves. So then the question was, well, what happens when you die and what happens to the property? So we were having all those kind of discussions. And then in having those discussions, my son really pushed for putting an ecological covenant on the land, just so that it would be protected forever. It seemed like a really beneficial thing to do, beneficial for all of us, really, and for the planet, for sure. So we had a family meeting, and the 3 children said, yes, we really approve of putting a covenant on the land. So it was an easy decision in that way, because we all agreed. And the process itself was a little more complicated.
Let's go. Lucy, let's go. Come on. Lucy, let's go. Let's get you a bit dry. I know, a bit dry. It's a good thing our house is so rough and ready, isn't it? It's a good thing.
So 2 years in, after the survey had been done, after the biological baseline study had been done, all this money had been spent, all this effort had been put forward. The whole covenant was going to be dead in the water unless I paid my property taxes, my deferred property taxes. So I thought about it and I thought, you know what? I'm really dedicated to putting this covenant on. and a lot of other people are too. So I'm just going to have to come up with that money. So I did, and I paid the taxes. But it was a great deal of money, and it wasn't anticipated. But it's done, and then it allowed the process to go forward. The mountain has 3 levels, so you have what we call First Ridge, and it's not very far from the house, and then Second Ridge. And Second Ridge has this very steep cliff and all these beautiful little micro gardens, like little ferns and lichens and all sorts of incredible growth on this steep cliff. And I've always thought it looked like a Japanese garden or a Chinese garden. And then you scramble up. It's quite difficult to get to Third Ridge. And Third Ridge has these 3 big, enormous Douglas fir. These big sort of, they're very large, and it's kind of open and clear, and then you're almost at the top. The 2 biologists from Salt Spring left a bat detector, and there were something like over 3,000 hits from bats. It was a huge amount. I think there are 7 species of bats, and there is the little brown myotis bat, which is an endangered bat. We're in a climate crisis. We're in a code red. We're living in a world where trees and the ecosystems are absolutely vital to the survival of all of us and the planet. So it's a small thing that I could do, really. I would really encourage people to put covenants on their land. I would warn you that there's more to it than you realize. But if you think of leaving a legacy and something for the future, it's a wonderful, wonderful legacy to leave. And to know that all those ecosystems are protected and that they're going to be there for future generations, it just gives you such a warm feeling, such a good feeling.